Hey everyone, it is Friday, January 8th. The time is 4:40 p.m. and the temperature right now is 2 degrees Celsius. I'm currently walking north up the east side of Yonge Street. And that was the intersection of Yonge and Front Street where I started. That's a look to the south. And there is the Hockey Hall of Fame. And the plan for this one is just to take a late afternoon walk north up Yonge Street to the intersection of Yonge and Bloor. And then I'll hop into Bloor-Yonge Station. It's actually been a bit longer than I thought since I last recorded a walk up Yonge. This is probably the most recorded street that I've done on this channel. There's a look at where the old marché used to be located. I have done a few rainy day walks along Yonge recently, but none during the daytime. This is Wellington Street. And just to the west here is the financial district. And even though it's -2, it's not that cold out. I would chalk that up to there being little to no wind at the moment. There's a look up at 1 King West. I think that was a project of a gentleman named Harry Stinson. He'd also proposed a larger condo and hotel called the Sapphire Tower back in the early to mid 2000s at some point. That was rumored to go toe-to-toe with the then still rumored Trump Tower. But the Sapphire Tower never came into fruition. And here is the intersection of Yonge and King. You'll find King Station entrances located at all 4 corners of this intersection. There's a look to the east. So about now, rush hour would normally start to get into full swing, although given the current situation going on, there's really not much of a rush hour downtown anymore. Although it is interesting that there's still a lot of traffic on our highways at this time. You kind of have to wonder where exactly everyone is going. And on that note, as of tomorrow, our friends in Quebec will be living under a curfew, whereas after 8 p.m., they will not be allowed to be outside unless they have an official reason and documentation for that reason. And earlier today, the province's top doctor and the premier hinted that a curfew is not off the table for the province of Ontario. I know this isn't a political channel, but you can firmly put me in the camp that thinks that wouldn't be a particularly good idea. Here is Adelaide Street. There's a look west into the financial district. I personally kind of enjoy doing my grocery shopping late at night. I find the stores are much more quiet and virtually empty in some cases. The employees seem a lot more relaxed. And I'm quite positive that it's generally a safer environment, so I don't see what having everybody into the pool before a certain hour will accomplish, other than, if anything, increase the case count. And if you take a look around the streets after 8 p.m., there's really just people like me going out for a walk. You have people walking their dog and that sort of thing. I really don't see what curtailing those activities will do. Whoa, why are you going backwards? And here is Richmond Street. That's Saks Fifth Avenue. They're owned by the Hudson's Bay. And I think they've even taken legal action against the province regarding the restrictions that don't let them currently operate. I'm not sure the current status of that, but it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And to be clear, I'm not against measures that are proven and grounded in science, but our curfew just seems arbitrary and has virtually no actual proof that it works behind it. So doing something for the sake of saying you did something is purely a move out of optics. And I was reading that there's already a large rash of protests being planned all across the province of Quebec for tomorrow night. That was the intersection of Queen and Yonge, and there is the Eaton Centre. And I've said this before, but it's certainly an unusual sight to see Yonge Street so dead. There's the site of Massey Tower. It's an impressively tall condo. Tall condos are going up all throughout, or all along Yonge Street in downtown, including two of the tallest towers in the country being built. One at the foot of Yonge Street at 1 Yonge, that's known as Pinnacle. And then on the north end of downtown at Yonge and Bloor, you have 1 Bloor West. That was a neat looking Lambo. There's a look east down Shooter Street and Franz. Their Front Street location is a victim of this pandemic. They've recently closed down. Their flagship college location remains open though. There's a look at the eastern entrance to the Eaton Center. There's another one just at the northeast corner up here.
Yeah, it was like.
I recently did a walk along Victoria Street where I talked about a lot of these theaters that we're walking by right now.
That's a fire whip.
All right, and here we are at a virtually empty Yonge-Dundas Square. Again, this kind of speaks to what purpose would a curfew actually serve if it's already this dead at this hour on a Friday evening. This is normally a very lively spot in the city, probably the most lively spot. There's usually all sorts of buskers and preachers and other sorts of characters hanging out on the corners here of Yonge and Dundas, but there seems to be very little of that today. I saw some videos earlier in the year that I recorded, and this same guy was coming out into the middle of the intersection way back then. And there's everyone's praise Jesus man. I don't know what else to call him. He's a bit of a local celebrity. I've said hi to him in a few recent live streams. And there's the old Jordan store, which is now transforming into a Foot Locker. This stretch of Yonge I'm on right now used to have a bit of a seedy yet fun reputation. I remember coming here as a kid growing up and getting a handful of quarters to play at the various arcades. And there used to be an HMV and Sam the Record Man on that side, and stores that would sell you things like really poorly made fake IDs. And there seems to be little to no line at this Jollibee. It's been lined up pretty good the last few times I came by here. That's a Filipino fast food chain that's sort of making its presence known across the GTA. There's Zanzibar, which is a hallmark of this part of Yonge Street. They are not currently operating during these restrictions. And just on the right here is a stalled condo development. It looks like they're trying to preserve the facade of the building that used to be here. I pretty much knew it as where the Big Slice was located. Apparently, the developer behind this project has gone bankrupt, so we're all kind of waiting for a knight in shining armor to come along and resume things. Hopefully we don't end up with this eyesore along Yonge Street for too long. And here is Gerrard and Yonge. That's a look east down Gerrard. There's the look to the west. And a look up at Aura. There's a neat outdoor ice skating trail just behind that condo at the College Park residences. There's also a rather bleak and failed underground shopping mall called the Shops at Aura underneath there. I've done a video on that in the past. But I think I'll just stick to walking up the east side of Yonge. There's a look at College Park. That used to be an Eaton's department store way back when. Now it's currently home to a Winners, which if you're American is very much like a Marshall's. In fact, as part of that Aura condo above the Shops at Aura, there is a Marshall's, and they're owned by the same company. I thought that lineup was for Popeyes, but it was actually for the cannabis shop right next door. And here we go at Yonge and Carlton on the right and College on the left. Here you'll find College subway station. And there are plans to actually redevelop this block on the northeast corner right here at the Shoppers Drug Mart. That clock tower there is part of an old fire hall that was later part of a tavern. Now it's being redeveloped, of course, into a condo. In fact, this particular stretch of Yonge is quite unrecognizable to just how it was even 10 years ago. Entire blocks of once familiar retail have been knocked down and have either been replaced or in the process of being replaced by shiny new condos. And they've been taking out a lot of the smaller, more unique retail that went along with those prior locations. And we're seeing more and more corporate stores populate Yonge Street, such as Rexall's and Shoppers Drug Marts. Those are the two big pharmacy chains. And things like banks. And just retail you could probably find anywhere in the country. Rather than the type of retail you'd expect to find on the most lively street in the biggest city in the country. I know a lot of people have mixed feelings about that, but for the most part, I think, just based on what I've read in the comments and from talking to people, people are rather sentimental about the old Yonge Street that everyone knew and grew up with is kind of on its way out and disappearing. And this is the intersection of Yonge and Wellesley up ahead. Just to the right, you'll find Wellesley subway station. And a few blocks past that at Church Street will be the Village. That's where you'll find the heart of the city's LGBTQ community. I always have to make sure I say all the correct letters whenever I pronounce that or say that. It doesn't exactly roll off the tongue. Okay, that guy I walked past 30 seconds ago was randomly pointing and yelling at people across the street. Here's an example of the kind of soulless retail that's invading Yonge Street. We have this nice property with a Royal Bank. I don't consider a large chain coffee shop to be that bad. And I actually don't mind aroma. So this will be Yonge and Irwin, just up ahead here. This Del Moro's pasta to go. It seemed to pop up everywhere I look. Theatrics Plus. There's always been a costume shop, I think, in that location for as long as I can remember. And I think this used to be a place called House of Lords, which was a hair salon.
Cleaned up the whole area just for this thing.
There's the CAA Theater. I've always known it as the New Yorker Theater. There's a dedicated Canada Post outlet.
Okay, I'm heading back there.
Down the corner here, this Tika House used to be a Starbucks. This is Yonge and Charles. It's really sad looking inside a lot of these restaurants and just seeing them empty and employees standing at the counter twiddling their thumbs. And here's Chick-fil-A, which is almost always lined up. The fact that there was nobody lined up at the Jollibee down by Yonge and Dundas and this Chick-fil-A, I think are pretty good indicators that there's a heck of a lot less people than there would normally be, even during the pandemic, along Yonge Street. It's probably just a combination of us being well into winter and there really being almost next to nothing to do anymore downtown that has kept a lot of the people at bay. I guess that's also part of the idea. Either way, it's still incredibly sad and depressing to a degree. And there is where 1 Bloor West is rising. I think they've been going back and forth between that condo and the one at 1 Yonge Street as to which will actually be the tallest condo in the city when all is said and done. That's a look north up Yonge Street. And there we go, that's Yonge Street from front through downtown up to Bloor Street. I think I'll take a moment here to pop on my mask and head over into the subway. And on that note, I was actually testing out a new pair of shoes today. I normally wear my trusty New Balances when I record these vlogs, but today we are rocking some Under Armours. The last time I owned a pair of Under Armours, I kind of chewed out the heel section pretty good. Those shoes lasted about 2 weeks, but those were more of a casual style. These are more pure running shoes. So hopefully these ones hold up. My feet also tend to rip right through Adidas shoes. That's one of the reasons why I stick with New Balance. They're not only comfortable, but they're kind of built like tanks. All right, I've got the mask on. Let's go see how dead the busiest subway station in the country is right now. There is contactless entry through these doors. I think it's a good idea to just implement that everywhere possible in the city. Regardless if there's a pandemic going on or not, I don't think touching surfaces unnecessarily is something a lot of people like doing. It's good that we have those vending machines there in case you ever lose your mask or it rips as some of the disposable ones can. At least you have an overpriced but convenient option to get a new one. And here's the subway train. So I hope you enjoyed this walk up Yonge Street. There are links to my Patreon account in the description if you wish to support the channel, along with channel memberships on the main page. All right, thanks for watching, and I will catch you on the next one.